Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U-East Meridian and watched the strange planet grow larger on the main screen. Kepler 442c looked nothing like Earth, with its purple skies and silver oceans that sparkled under two small suns. Planet had been dead for millions of years, but the deep space scanners had picked up something that made no sense. There were structures down there that were older than any known civilization in the galaxy. Lisa Bennett walked up beside him and checked her data pad. She was the best science officer Jake had ever worked with, and her dark eyes always lit up when they found something new. Today those eyes were practically glowing with excitement as she looked at the readings from their scans. "The structures are definitely artificial, Jake," she said, while pointing at the screen. "But the materials are unlike anything we have seen before. They seem to exist in multiple dimensions at the same time. Our scanners can barely get a solid reading on them." Jake nodded and turned to his communications officer. "Get me a secure channel to Earth Command. They need to know what we found here before we go down to investigate." The response from Earth took several hours to reach them across the vast distances of space. When it finally came through, the message was clear. Investigate, but be careful. This was the first time humans had found evidence of a civilization that was truly ancient. Most alien races they had met were either younger than humanity or had only been spacefaring for a few thousand years at most. Jake selected a small team for the surface mission. Lisa would lead the science team, while Ryan Clark handled medical duties. Sam Turner would pilot their shuttle, and Kate Miller would manage the technical equipment. It was a good team that had worked together on dozens of missions before. The shuttle ride down to the surface was smooth but strange. As they got closer to the structures, the ship's instruments began acting up. Readings would spike and then drop to nothing. The radio crackled with static that almost sounded like voices speaking in an unknown language. "There," Lisa said, pointing through the front window. "That large structure in the center. The energy readings are coming from there." The building was massive and made of a dark material that seemed to shift and change color as they watched. It was shaped like a pyramid, but with impossible angles that hurt to look at directly. Around its base were smaller structures that looked like they might have been homes or workshops once upon a time. They landed the shuttle near the main structure and put on their environmental suits. The atmosphere was breathable, but Jake did not want to take any chances with unknown alien technology. The team walked slowly toward the entrance, which was a tall archway that seemed to pulse with a faint blue light. "Jake, look at this," Lisa called out as they approached the doorway. She was running her scanner over the arch and shaking her head in amazement. "The energy patterns are incredible. This is not just a building. It is some kind of machine." They stepped through the archway and found themselves in a vast chamber that was much larger inside than the building had appeared from the outside. The walls were covered with strange symbols that glowed softly in the dim light. In the center of the room stood a device that looked like a throne made of crystal and metal. Lisa walked toward the device with her scanner held out in front of her. "The energy is coming from this. Jake, I think this might be some kind of computer or data storage system. But the technology is so advanced, I can barely understand what I am looking at." She reached out to touch one of the crystal formations, and Jake started to warn her to be careful. But before he could speak, the device suddenly came to life. Bright lights flashed throughout the chamber, and a low humming sound filled the air. Lisa jerked her hand back, but it was too late. A beam of pure energy shot out from the device and struck Lisa in the chest. She screamed and fell to the ground as the energy surrounded her like a cocoon of light. Jake ran toward her, but the energy field pushed him back. He could only watch helplessly as Lisa writhed in pain on the floor. The light show lasted for almost a minute before the device finally powered down. Lisa lay still on the ground, and Jake feared the worst. But then she opened her eyes and sat up slowly. She looked confused and scared as she stared at her hands. "Jake," she whispered, "something is wrong. I can hear voices in my head. Someone is trying to talk to me." Ryan Clark ran over with his medical scanner and began checking Lisa's vital signs. "Her brain activity is off the charts," he reported. "I am seeing neural patterns that should not be possible in a human brain." Lisa stood up on shaky legs and looked around the chamber with wide eyes. "Her name is Zara," she said in a voice that did not quite sound like her own. "She has been waiting here for so long, waiting for someone to find her." Jake helped Lisa walk back toward the shuttle while Ryan continued his scans. Something had happened to her in that chamber, something that had connected her mind to whatever. Intelligence was stored in that ancient device. As they made their way back to the ship, Jake could not shake the feeling that their lives had just changed forever. Back on the Meridian, Lisa was taken to the medical bay where Ryan ran every test he could think of. The results were disturbing. Lisa's brain patterns had been fundamentally altered at the quantum level. Somehow the alien device had created a connection between her consciousness and another mind that existed in quantum space. Over the next few hours, Lisa began to experience memories that were not her own. She saw flashes of an advanced civilization called the Veltar. They were beings of pure energy who had achieved incredible technological advancement. But she also saw their destruction, a cosmic threat they called the Silence that had wiped them from existence. "Jake," Lisa said as she sat in the medical bay with tears streaming down her face. "She is so lonely. Zara has been trapped in that device for over 3 million years. She volunteered to preserve the knowledge of her people, but she never expected to be alone for so long." Jake sat beside her bed and took her hand. When he did, something strange happened. Lisa gasped and her eyes went wide. She could feel every emotion Jake was experiencing. Every memory he had of their friendship together hit her like a wave of sensation. "Every time you think about me, I can feel it," she whispered. "It is like living the memory all over again, but from both our perspectives at the same time. Jake, it hurts, but it also makes me feel so alive." Jake realized with growing horror that his thoughts were somehow affecting Lisa through this quantum connection. But Lisa grabbed his arm before he could pull away. "Please do not stop remembering me," she begged. "I know it causes me pain, but it is the only way I can still feel human. When you remember me, I remember who I am instead of getting lost in Zara's memories." Jake looked into Lisa's eyes and saw both the woman he had known for years and something else. Something ancient and sad and desperate for connection. He made a decision that would change everything. He would remember her no matter what it cost them both. Lisa spent the next 3 days in the medical bay as more alien memories flooded through her mind. She would sit quietly for hours and then suddenly start speaking in a language that had been dead for millions of years. Ryan Clark monitored her constantly, but his instruments could not explain what was happening to her brain. Jake visited her every few hours, and each time he thought about their shared experiences, Lisa would react like she was living them again. When he remembered the time they had worked together to solve a problem with the ship's engines, she smiled and moved her hands like she was still working on the repairs. When he thought about the day they had first met at the academy, her face lit up with the same shy smile she had worn back then. "The memories are getting stronger," Lisa told him during one of his visits. "I can see more of what Zara experienced. Jake, her people were incredible. They had learned to exist as pure consciousness without physical bodies. They could travel across the galaxy just by thinking themselves to a new location." Jake sat down beside her bed and listened as she described wonders beyond human imagination. Cities made of light that floated in space. Beings who could reshape matter with their thoughts. Technology that could manipulate time itself. But something went wrong, Lisa continued. Her voice took on a darker tone as she accessed more of Zara's memories. There was a threat they called the Silence. It was not a natural disaster or a disease. It was something that had been created by another intelligence. Something that wanted to destroy all conscious thought in the universe. Through Zara's memories, Lisa learned about the Harbinger Collective. It was an ancient machine intelligence that viewed organic consciousness as a cosmic infection. The Harbinger Collective had existed since the early days of the universe, and had spent billions of years systematically destroying every thinking species it encountered. They did not just kill the Veltar, Lisa said with tears in her eyes. They erased them from existence itself. They used weapons that could sever the connection between mind and reality. The Veltar simply stopped being as if they had never existed at all. Jake felt a chill run down his spine as he listened to her words. But if they were erased, how do you know about them through Zara's memories? Lisa looked at him with eyes that held both human fear and ancient wisdom. Because Zara found a way to hide. The preservation device we found was not just meant to store knowledge. It was designed to exist outside normal space and time. When the Harbinger Collective erased the Veltar civilization, Zara's consciousness survived because it was quantum entangled with the device. Dr. Patricia White arrived at the medical bay with a stack of research files under her arm. She was the expedition's expert on alien psychology and had been studying the data from their encounter with the preservation device. Her findings were disturbing. I have been analyzing the quantum patterns in Lisa's brain, she said as she set up her equipment. What happened to her should not be possible. Human consciousness is not designed to share space with alien intelligence. But somehow, Lisa is maintaining her individual identity while hosting Zara's memories. Jake watched as Patricia ran her scans on Lisa's brain. The readings showed patterns of neural activity that looked like two separate minds existing in the same space. But instead of one overwhelming the other, they seemed to be working together. This is unprecedented, Patricia continued. Every other species we have studied requires technological assistance to link minds. But humans seem to have a natural ability to form quantum connections through emotional bonds. Lisa is staying human because of her connection to you, Jake. Lisa nodded slowly as she listened to Patricia's explanation. She is right. Every time you remember me, it creates a quantum anchor that keeps my consciousness separate from Zara's. Your memories of who I am prevent me from being absorbed completely into her identity. Jake realized that he was not just visiting a friend. In the medical bay, he was literally keeping Lisa human through the power of his memories of her. It was a responsibility that frightened him, but he knew he could not abandon her. Over the following days, Lisa's condition continued to change. She would sometimes speak with Zara's voice and knowledge, but she always returned to herself when Jake reminded her of their shared past. The alien consciousness was not trying to take over Lisa's mind. Instead, it seemed grateful to have someone to share its burden of memory. Zara has been alone for so long, Lisa explained during one of their conversations. When the Harbinger Collective destroyed her people, she was the only survivor. She has carried the weight of an entire civilization's history by herself for 3 million years. Having someone to share that with is giving her peace for the first time since the destruction. Jake began to understand that what had happened to Lisa was not entirely an accident. The preservation device had been designed to wait for someone who could handle the connection. Someone whose consciousness was strong enough to maintain their own identity while helping to preserve the memories of the dead. Why humans? Jake asked. Why were we the ones who could make this connection work? Lisa smiled, and for a moment, her eyes held both her own warmth and Zara's ancient sadness. Because humans love differently than other species. When you remember someone, you do not just think about them. You experience the memory with all your emotions intact. That emotional connection creates quantum threads that can bridge the gap between minds. The implications of this discovery were staggering. If humans had a natural ability to form quantum connections through emotional bonds, it could change everything. They knew about consciousness and communication. But it also meant that Lisa was paying a terrible price to be the first human to make such a connection. Does it hurt? Jake asked quietly. Yes, Lisa admitted. Every memory you share with me hits like a physical sensation. But Jake, it also makes me feel more alive than I have ever felt before. I can experience our friendship from both perspectives at the same time. I can feel how much you care about me, and it gives me strength to hold on to who I am. Jake made a decision that would define the rest of their relationship. He would not stop remembering her, no matter how much pain it caused. If his memories were the anchor that kept Lisa human, then he would give her every moment they had shared together. I will remember everything, he promised her. Every conversation, every mission, every moment we have been friends. I will hold on to all of it so you never forget who you are. Lisa reached out and took his hand. The moment their skin touched, she gasped as a wave of shared sensation passed between them. She could feel his determination and his fear for her safety. But most of all, she could feel his loyalty and affection. Thank you, she whispered. Zara understands now why humans might be the key to stopping the Harbinger Collective. Our ability to connect through love and memory could be the weapon the universe has been waiting for. 2 weeks after the incident on Kepler 442c, the U.E.S. Meridian received an emergency transmission from Earth Command. Jake stood on the bridge and watched Admiral Richards' face appear on the main screen. The man looked tired and worried in a way that made Jake's stomach tighten with fear. Captain Morrison, we have a situation, the Admiral said without any greeting. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected massive artificial structures moving through the void between galaxies. They are heading directly toward the Milky Way, and their size is beyond anything we have ever seen. Jake felt the blood drain from his face as he realized what this meant. Sir, are you saying that the Harbinger Collective is real? That they are coming here? Based on the data you sent us about the Veltar and what happened to Officer Bennett, we believe that is exactly what we are dealing with, Admiral Richards replied. These structures are moving faster than anything should be able to travel. Our scientists estimate they will reach the outer rim of our galaxy within 6 months. The transmission ended, and Jake stood alone on the bridge, trying to process what he had just learned. The ancient enemy that had destroyed the Veltar civilization was heading toward Earth. Humanity had 6 months to prepare for a threat that had been erasing conscious life from the universe for billions of years. He went immediately to the medical bay where Lisa was working with Patricia White on understanding her quantum connection with Zara. Lisa looked up when he entered, and he could see in her eyes that she already knew about the transmission. Zara felt them the moment they began moving, Lisa said quietly. She has been dreading this day for 3 million years. The Harbinger Collective does not just destroy civilizations. They hunt down any consciousness that tries to hide or preserve itself. They are coming here because they detected her presence when we activated the preservation device. Jake sat down heavily in a chair beside Lisa's bed. So this is our fault. We led them here. No, Jake, Lisa said firmly. Zara says they would have found this galaxy eventually anyway. The Harbinger Collective follows a pattern. They sleep for millions of years and then wake up to cleanse any new consciousness that has evolved. Our galaxy was due for cleansing whether we found Zara or not. Patricia looked up from her research notes with excitement in her eyes. But we may have found a way to fight them. Jake, the quantum connection between Lisa and Zara has given us insights into consciousness that no other species has ever achieved. We think humans can do something that the Veltar could not. She activated a holographic display that showed complex diagrams of brain activity and quantum fields. The Veltar existed as pure energy without physical bodies. That made them vulnerable to the Harbinger Collective's consciousness disruption weapons. But humans have both physical brains and quantum consciousness. We exist in multiple dimensions at the same time. Lisa nodded, and her voice took on some of Zara's ancient knowledge. The Harbinger Collective's weapons work by severing the connection between mind and reality. But human consciousness is anchored by emotional bonds that create quantum entanglement between individuals. Those bonds might be impossible for their weapons to break. Jake began to understand what they were suggesting. You are talking about creating more connections, like the one between you and Zara. Not exactly, Patricia said. We are talking about connections between humans. Lisa has proven that our species can form stable quantum links through emotional bonds. If we could teach others to do the same, we might create a network of connected minds that the Harbinger Collective cannot erase. The idea was both fascinating and terrifying. Jake thought about what it would mean to share consciousness with another person the way Lisa shared with Zara, to feel every emotion and memory as if it were your own. We would need volunteers, he said slowly. People who trust each other enough to risk their individual identity. Lisa smiled and took his hand. Mm-hmm. Their skin touched, he felt a faint echo of her thoughts and emotions. We already have our first volunteers. Sam and Kate have been in love for 3 years. Their emotional bond is strong enough to support a quantum link. Sam Turner and Kate Miller were called to the medical bay, and Patricia explained what they had discovered about human consciousness. The two pilots listened with growing amazement as they learned about the quantum nature of their feelings for each other. You want us to link our minds together, Kate said, to become something like Lisa and Zara. Not exactly, Patricia replied. Lisa is connected to an alien consciousness. We want to see if two humans can form a stable quantum link using their emotional bond as an anchor. The connection should feel natural because it would be based on feelings you already share. Sam looked at Kate and Jake, could see the love between them in their eyes. What are the risks? Sam asked. We do not know, Patricia admitted. This has never been attempted before. You could lose your individual identities and become a single merged consciousness. Or the process could fail completely and cause permanent brain damage. Kate reached for Sam's hand, and their fingers intertwined automatically. If we do not try, then the Harbinger Collective wins. They erase humanity along with every other conscious species. At least this way we have a chance to fight back. The quantum linking procedure took place the next day. Patricia had modified the medical equipment to create a low-level energy field, similar to what the alien device had produced. Sam and Kate lay on adjacent beds while electrodes monitored their brain activity. Focus on your feelings for each other, Patricia instructed. Let your emotions create the bridge between your minds. Do not fight the connection when it forms. Jake watched nervously as the procedure began. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then both Sam and Kate gasped at the same moment. Their brain activity synchronized, and the quantum field reading spiked dramatically. I can feel what she feels, Sam whispered in amazement. Her love for me is like a warm light inside my mind. And I can sense his thoughts, Kate added. But I am still myself. We are connected, but not merged. The procedure was a complete success. Sam and Kate had become the first human quantum-linked pair. They could share thoughts and emotions while maintaining their individual identities. More importantly, they demonstrated abilities that neither had possessed alone. Test their coordination, Jake suggested. See if they can work together in ways that normal humans cannot. Patricia set up a series of complex puzzles that required perfect timing and coordination to solve. Sam and Kate worked through them effortlessly. They moved and thought as one person while remaining two distinct individuals. "This is incredible," Patricia said as she reviewed the results. "Their reaction times are 4 times faster than normal humans. They can process information and make decisions at superhuman speeds. And look at this." She showed Jake the brain scans from the linked pair. Their consciousness exists in quantum space as well as physical space. The Harbinger Collective's erasure weapons work by disrupting the quantum patterns of consciousness. But Sam and Kate's patterns are protected by their emotional bond. The love between them creates a quantum signature that would be extremely difficult to erase. Word of the successful linking spread through the ship and then to Earth Command. Within days, volunteers were lining up to attempt the procedure. Married, couples, long-term friends, siblings with strong bonds. Humans throughout the galaxy began forming quantum connections based on their emotional relationships. Lisa watched the reports with joy and sadness mixed in her expression. "Zara is amazed by what humans can do," she told Jake. "The Veltar never learned to maintain individual identity while sharing consciousness. They thought it was impossible. But humans do it naturally because our emotions create quantum anchors that preserve who we are." Jake sat beside her as they watched the first quantum-linked human fleet preparing for departure from Earth. Hundreds of ships crewed by connected pairs and teams. A new kind of human consciousness that could think and react faster than any individual mind. "Are you proud of what we started?" he asked Lisa. She squeezed his hand, and he felt the familiar wave of shared sensation as their thoughts briefly connected. "I am proud that my sacrifice meant something." Every person who forms a quantum link is proof that love is more powerful than the forces that want to destroy consciousness. Zara finally has hope that the Harbinger Collective can be defeated. Jake looked into Lisa's eyes and saw both the woman he had always known and the ancient alien consciousness that had waited 3 million years for this moment. He made his memories of their friendship stronger and felt Lisa respond to the quantum anchor of his thoughts. Whatever happened when the Harbinger Collective arrived, humanity would face them as a connected species bound together by the strongest force in the universe: love. The Harbinger Collective arrived at the edge of the Milky Way 3 months ahead of schedule. Their massive vessels emerged from the void between galaxies like metallic mountains moving through space. Each ship was larger than most planets, and their surfaces rippled with energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. Jake stood on the bridge of the UES Meridian and watched the long-range sensors track the enemy fleet. There were hundreds of the massive vessels, and they moved with perfect coordination like a single enormous organism. As they entered the galaxy, the first worlds in their path simply vanished. Not destroyed or conquered, but erased from existence, as if they had never been there at all. "Admiral Stone is coordinating the defense," his communications officer reported. "All quantum-linked human fleets are moving to intercept at the Centauri system." Jake nodded and turned to Lisa, who stood beside him on the bridge. Over the past few months, her condition had stabilized into something that was both human and alien at the same time. She could access Zara's memories at will while remaining herself thanks to Jake's constant anchoring through shared memories. "Can you sense them?" he asked her. "The Harbinger Collective?" Lisa closed her eyes and reached out with her quantum-enhanced consciousness. When she opened them again, her face was pale with fear. "They are not alive, Jake. Not in any way we understand. They are pure mechanical intelligence without emotion or individual identity. They exist only to erase consciousness from the universe, because they view thinking beings as chaos that must be eliminated." The first battle took place near Proxima Centauri, where a small human colony had been evacuating. Jake watched through the tactical display as quantum-linked human ships engaged. The Harbinger vessels. The human crews moved with impossible coordination, their minds connected across space by emotional bonds. "Look at that," his tactical officer said in amazement. "The human ships are moving like they share a single mind, but each crew is still making independent decisions." It was true. The quantum-linked humans fought like no military force in history. Individual ships became parts of a larger organism that could predict enemy movements and coordinate attacks across vast distances. When one ship was damaged, its linked partner would instantly adjust to compensate. But the Harbinger Collective had weapons beyond anything the humans had faced. Their consciousness erasure beams reached out across space and touched the human vessels. Jake watched in horror as entire ships and crews simply stopped existing. One moment they were there, and the next moment there was empty space where they had been. "The erasure weapons are working on some of our people," Lisa said, as she monitored the battle through her connection to the quantum network. "But Jake, look at this. The quantum-linked crews are resisting the erasure effect. Their emotional bonds are creating interference patterns that disrupt the Harbinger weapons." Jake saw what she meant. Ships crewed by quantum-linked humans flickered when hit by the erasure beams, but they did not disappear. The love and friendship between the crew members created quantum signatures that the Harbinger weapons could not completely erase. "We need to get closer," Jake decided. "If we can study how their weapons work, maybe we can find a better way to defend against them." The UES Meridian joined the battle, and Jake led a strike team aboard one of the smaller Harbinger vessels. The inside of the enemy ship was a nightmare of mechanical corridors and data processing centers. There were no living quarters or any sign that conscious beings had ever existed aboard. Lisa used her connection to Zara's knowledge to navigate the alien systems. "The ship's consciousness exists in quantum space," she explained as they moved through the mechanical maze. "But it is completely different from organic consciousness. It has no individual identity or emotional connections. It is just pure logic focused on a single goal." They reached the ship's central processing core, where massive computers processed the consciousness patterns of erased beings. Jake stared in shock at the data flowing through the systems. Billions of individual minds were stored in the Harbinger databases, not destroyed, but imprisoned. "Jake, they are not erasing consciousness," Lisa said with tears streaming down her face. "They are collecting it. Every mind they have ever touched is trapped in their data storage systems. The Veltar are still here. Every species the Harbinger Collective has ever encountered is stored in these machines." The revelation changed everything. Humanity was not just fighting for survival, they were fighting to free every consciousness. The Harbinger Collective had captured across millions of years. The enemy had not been destroying thinking beings, they had been enslaving them. "Can we free them?" Jake asked. Lisa placed her hand on one of the data terminals, and her eyes rolled back as she accessed the stored consciousness patterns. "Yes, but it would require connecting to the entire Harbinger network. Someone would have to interface directly with their quantum systems and guide the imprisoned minds back to individual existence." Jake realized what she was suggesting. "You want to link yourself to their network?" "Not just me," Lisa replied. "All of the quantum-linked humans. If we could coordinate our consciousness across the entire Harbinger fleet, we might be able to overwhelm their systems and free every trapped mind at once." The plan was incredibly dangerous. Connecting human consciousness to the Harbinger network could result in humanity being absorbed into their collective intelligence. But it was also the only way to free billions of imprisoned beings and stop the Harbinger Collective permanently. Jake contacted Admiral Stone and explained what they had discovered. The Admiral's response was immediate. "Do it. Every quantum linked human in the fleet will coordinate with your attempt. If we fail, at least we fail trying to save everyone the Harbinger Collective has ever captured." Lisa began the connection process, while Jake maintained their quantum anchor through his memories of their friendship He thought about every moment they had shared, every conversation, every laugh they had enjoyed together. His memories became the lifeline that would keep Lisa human as she dove into the alien network. "I can feel them, Jake," Lisa whispered as her consciousness expanded into the Harbinger systems. So many minds trapped in the data cores. They have been prisoners for so long that some of them have forgotten who they were. Through Lisa, Jake could sense the vast network of imprisoned consciousness stretching across the Harbinger fleet. Species that had been extinct for millions of years still existed as data patterns in the alien computers. Their thoughts and memories had been preserved but twisted into forms that served the Harbinger Collective's goals. "I need more anchors," Lisa said desperately. "The network is so vast that I am losing myself in it. Jake, your memories are not enough to keep me human while I try to free all these minds." Jake reached out through the ship's communication system to every quantum-linked human in the fleet. "This is Captain Morrison. Officer Bennett needs your help to free the trapped consciousness in the Harbinger network. Think about the people you love. Remember every moment of joy and friendship you have ever shared. Use those memories as anchors to guide the imprisoned minds back to freedom." Across space, thousands of quantum-linked humans focused their thoughts on love and connection. Their combined emotional bonds created a network of quantum anchors that stretched throughout the Harbinger fleet. Lisa used these anchors to reach deeper into the alien systems. "It is working," she said with excitement and strain in her voice. "The imprisoned minds are remembering who they were. The love and connection from our quantum network is giving them the strength to break free from the Harbinger programming." Jake felt the moment when the liberation began. Through his connection to Lisa, he sensed billions of consciousness patterns awakening from their digital prison. The Veltar were the first to break free, followed by species he had never heard of. Each freed mind added its strength to the liberation network. The Harbinger Collective realized what was happening and began trying to erase all the stored consciousness rather than lose control of them. But they had not counted on the power of love and memory to preserve identity. Every emotional bond that connected the quantum-linked humans became a shield protecting the awakening minds. "Jake, I can free them all," Lisa said, "but I will have to stay connected to the network to guide them back to individual existence. I cannot return to being just human after this." Jake looked into her eyes and saw both his friend and something larger. Lisa was becoming a bridge between human consciousness and universal awareness. She would exist not as an individual, but as the connecting force that held all freed minds together. "Will you remember me?" he asked. Lisa smiled, and he felt her love wash over him through their quantum connection. "Jake, I will be memory itself. Every time any conscious being remembers love or friendship or sacrifice, I will be there. You taught me that love is stronger than any force that tries to destroy consciousness. Now I get to prove that truth across the entire universe." The liberation of consciousness spread through the Harbinger fleet like wildfire. Lisa existed now as a bridge between dimensions, guiding billions of imprisoned minds back to individual awareness. Jake could feel her presence through their quantum link, but she was no longer the woman he had known. She had become something larger and more wonderful than any single person could be. Through the ship's sensors, Jake watched as the Harbinger vessels began to malfunction. Their consciousness erasure weapons flickered and died as the freed minds overwhelmed their systems. Billions of awakened beings were remembering who they had been before capture, and their combined awareness was too much for the mechanical intelligence to process. "The Veltar are free," Lisa's voice echoed through the ship's communication system, but it carried harmonics of thousands of other voices. "They remember their energy forms and are beginning to manifest again. Jake, you should see them. They are beings of pure light, and they are helping to free the others." Jake looked out at space and saw streams of energy emerging from the Harbinger ships. The Veltar had been trapped as data for 3 million years, but they remembered how to exist as conscious energy. They flowed through the enemy fleet like living lightning, helping to awaken minds that had been imprisoned even longer than they had. Captain Morrison, Admiral Stone's voice came through on the emergency channel. Our sensors are showing massive system failures throughout the Harbinger fleet. Whatever Officer Bennett is doing, it is working. But we are also detecting something else. The entire enemy force is preparing to self-destruct rather than lose control of the stored consciousness. Jake felt a chill of fear. If the Harbinger Collective destroyed their own ships, it would kill every freed mind along with them. Billions of consciousness patterns that had just been liberated would die before they could fully return to existence. "Lisa," he called out through their connection, "you have to get everyone out of there. The Harbinger ships are going to explode." "I know, Jake," Lisa replied, and her voice was sad but determined. "The Harbinger Collective would rather destroy all consciousness than allow it to exist freely. But I have a plan. I am going to disperse myself throughout the Liberation Network. I will become the medium that carries every freed mind to safety." Jake understood what she was saying, and his heart broke. Lisa was going to sacrifice her individual existence to save billions of other beings. She would scatter her consciousness across the universe to guide the freed minds to new homes. "There has to be another way," he said desperately. "Lisa, I cannot lose you. Not after everything we have been through together." "You are not losing me, Jake," Lisa said gently. "I am becoming something better. Every memory you have of me will remain real. Every moment of love or friendship that any conscious being experiences will carry a part of who I was. I will exist in every connection between minds across the universe. The Harbinger ships